Welcome back, everyone. Today I'm sharing 3 deeply scary stories from a haunted village that will send chills down your spine. These tales are based on my own experiences, and I promise you won't forget them anytime soon. Story 1: The Whispering Shadows. It was a foggy evening when I decided to explore the village alone. As I walked past the old church, I heard whispers calling my name. I turned around, but no one was there. The whispers grew louder, echoing through the empty streets. I felt a cold breeze brush past me, and suddenly I saw shadows darting between the trees. I ran back home, my heart racing, but the whispers followed me, lingering in my mind. The moment I reached my doorstep, I fumbled for my keys, my hands trembling. The whispers hadn't stopped. They were faint now, just a breath away, seeping into my ears like the wind carried them straight to me. I finally pushed the door open, slammed it shut, and locked it. My chest rose and fell with rapid breaths as I pressed my back against the wooden frame. Silence. For a few moments I convinced myself it was over, that it had just been my imagination, a trick played by the fog and the eerie stillness of the village at night. But then, tap, 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 my breath caught in my throat. The sound was coming from the window. Slowly, against my better judgment, I turned my head toward it. The glass was fogged over, making it impossible to see outside, but there was an unmistakable shape, a shadow pressed against the pane. I swallowed hard, taking a slow step back. My mind raced. Could it be someone playing a prank? Or had something followed me home from the church? Summoning the courage I didn't feel, I reached for the curtain and yanked it closed, my pulse thundering in my ears. But as soon as the window was out of sight, something else happened. The whispers returned. But this time, they were inside the house. I spun around, scanning the dimly lit room. The shadows stretched unnaturally across the walls, moving like living things. My stomach twisted in fear as I realized they weren't just reflections of objects in the room. They were watching me. A sudden chill wrapped around my spine, making my skin prickle. I backed away toward my bedroom, keeping my eyes locked on the shifting darkness. I didn't know what else to do. How do you escape something that isn't really there? The moment I reached my room, I slammed the door shut and flicked on the light. The whispers stopped. The shadows froze. I sat on the bed, my heart pounding, staring at the door as if expecting it to burst open at any moment. Minutes passed, then hours. Eventually, exhaustion overtook fear, and I drifted into a restless sleep. When I woke the next morning, sunlight streamed through the window, casting warmth over the room. Everything seemed normal. No whispers, no shadows, nothing. I let out a breath of relief and got up to check the rest of the house. The window, the walls, the door, everything was just as I had left it. Maybe it really had been my imagination. But just as I turned to leave the room, something caught my eye. On my bedroom mirror, written in the condensation left from the night before, was a single sentence: "You can't run forever." Story 2: The Cursed Well. One day, I stumbled upon an ancient well at the edge of the village. Locals warned me never to look inside, claiming it was cursed. Curiosity got the better of me, and I peered over the edge. To my horror, I saw faces staring back at me, their mouths open in silent screams. I stumbled back, terrified, and as I turned to leave, I felt a cold hand grip my ankle. I ran, never looking back, but the chilling sensation of that hand still haunts me. I don't know what possessed me to do it. Maybe it was the way the well stood alone, hidden at the edge of the village, almost forgotten by time. Maybe it was the warning itself, the way the locals spoke in hushed tones, their eyes darting toward it with quiet fear. Never look inside, they had told me. Once you do, it will look back. But human nature is cruel. The more they warned me, the more I had to know. So one evening, just as the sun dipped behind the trees, I made my way to the well. It was eerily quiet, the air thick with an unsettling stillness. I approached carefully, my pulse quickening. The stone was rough beneath my fingers as I leaned forward, heart pounding, and peered into the abyss. At first I saw nothing, just endless darkness. Then the water rippled. Shapes began to emerge, distorted at first, then horrifyingly clear. Faces, dozens of them. Their wide, lifeless eyes stared up at me, mouths frozen in silent, eternal screams. Some were decayed, barely recognizable as human, while others looked fresh, as if they had only just been swallowed by the well. I gasped, stumbling backward, my breath caught in my throat. But before I could run, something cold wrapped around my ankle. I screamed. Looking down, I saw a pale, rotting hand emerging from the earth, its bony fingers gripping me tight. The pressure was unbearable, dragging me closer to the well. I kicked, struggled, clawed at the ground, until, suddenly, it let go. I didn't stop to look. I ran, faster than I ever had in my life, crashing through the trees, not daring to turn back. Only when I reached the village did I allow myself to stop, panting, trembling. I told no one what I had seen. Who would believe me? But I knew the truth, and ever since that night, I haven't been the same. Because sometimes, when I pass a mirror or glance into a still puddle of water, I see them, the faces, watching, waiting, and I know they want me to come back. Story 3: The Vanishing Children. On a stormy night, I heard laughter coming from the village playground. I stepped outside, thinking it was just kids playing. But when I arrived, the swings were empty, and the laughter turned into cries. I saw ghostly figures of children playing, their faces twisted in fear. They pointed towards the woods, and I felt an overwhelming urge to follow. As I stepped closer, the ground beneath me began to shake, and I realized I was standing on hallowed ground. I turned to run, but the cries grew louder, echoing in my ears. I barely made it back home, but the sound of their laughter still haunts me, a reminder of the children who vanished without a trace. It was the kind of night that made the world feel smaller, trapped beneath an endless sheet of rain. Thunder rumbled in the distance as I sat by my window, watching the storm rage outside. That's when I heard it. Soft, distant laughter. At first, I thought it was the wind, but as the laughter continued, rising and falling like a playful melody, I realized it was coming from the old village playground. Something about it didn't feel right. No one played there anymore. Curious and admittedly unnerved, I grabbed my jacket and stepped out into the rain. The air was heavy, thick with the scent of wet earth as I made my way toward the playground. The moment I arrived, the laughter stopped. I looked around. The swings swayed slightly in the wind, their rusted chains creaking, but the playground was empty, completely deserted. Then, just as I was about to turn back, I heard it again. But this time it wasn't laughter. It was crying, low, pitiful sobs echoing all around me. I spun around, heart pounding, and that's when I saw them, small, ghostly figures barely visible through the rain. Children. Their faces were pale, their eyes hollow, filled with something between fear and sadness. They stood motionless near the merry-go-round, their tiny hands pointing toward the woods. A cold dread settled over me. I should have run, I wanted to run. But something pulled me forward, an overwhelming urge to follow their silent command. Step by step, I moved toward the edge of the woods, my breath quickening as the cries grew louder. Then the ground beneath me trembled. The air turned ice cold. A deep, guttural whisper surrounded me, a voice not of this world. Leave. Suddenly, the children vanished, their forms dissolving like mist. And then I saw it, beneath my feet. The earth had split open slightly, revealing what lay beneath. Tiny bones. Dozens of them. I stumbled back, my mind reeling with the realization. The ground I stood on was no ordinary soil. It was a grave, a mass grave. I ran, as fast as I could, never looking back until I reached my house. I locked the doors, my entire body shaking. I never spoke of that night. But sometimes in the dead of night, when the rain falls heavy and the wind howls through the village, I still hear them. The laughter, the crying. And I know, somewhere in those woods, they are still waiting. Thank you for joining me on this chilling journey through the haunted village. If you enjoyed these stories, please like, share, and subscribe for more spine-tingling tales. And remember, sometimes the scariest stories are the ones that are true.